just like every great leader, and I'm not putting myself in that category, but in this particular case, I'm going to take responsibility for the devastating loss that our Detroit Lions incurred at the hands of the Washington Commanders, because I sold out. I didn't take the bottle to the grave of Bobby Lane to completely dispel the curse. So I put it on myself. I thought I was going to have the in-between week.
I thought you had the flight booked.
I thought I had the in-between week between the championship game and the Super Bowl, and we didn't even get there.
Yeah.
Because I got cocky. I got full of myself. I didn't think that the Washington Commanders with a rookie quarterback could come into Ford Field.
None of us did.
I didn't think that Jared Goff would save what was probably his worst performance of the season for the big game. I didn't think Amik Robertson, who had turned into a shutdown player, would get hurt on the first series of the game.
Was that almost the first play? It was the first series, second play.
Completely destroying the Aaron Glenn game plan of how to deal with McLaurin and the rest of their band of wide receivers. And Daniels played a flawless football game. The whole Washington Commanders team played a flawless football game. So much so, you saw what the real Washington Commanders looked like just this weekend against the Philadelphia Eagles. So I know we've had a delay since we've been able to talk football live the week of. What was your takeaway from both the Lions debacle and then what you saw transpire between Chiefs, Bills, Eagles, Commanders?
I mean, I think it's similar to what you're talking about. I mean, losing Amik Robertson in the first series of the game, I think, probably is the biggest issue that we had.
Because it was a house of cards, right? I mean, They're playing with mirrors out there with 5 starters already out. Then you lose a piece that had become so key. I mean, the way that he shut down Jefferson for Minnesota, you just saw him as a rising star in this league. And for him to be eliminated and then for us to have more injuries on defense later in that game.
It kind of reminded me of last year. Vildor started against San Fran last year.
Yeah.
And
did not perform.
And he's not the complete reason for both losses, but it changes your game plan, right? You've got to change up the way you blitz. You got to change up the way you help each other in coverage. Amik Robertson, they'd leave on his own. That's a big difference. Now you got to slant your defense to help him. So that was part of it, and they just played a flawless game. We had 4 turnovers, and they had 0, right?
Yeah. Jared Goff threw 3 picks and he fumbled the ball. The fumble was probably the most key because at that point in the game, it looked like the Lions really had things rolling.
But I think we thought we were so good and so lucky that we could have 5 turnovers in the game like Goff did earlier this year and win. 98% of the time, you just lose the turnover battle like 3-2 and you lose the game.
I'm going to discount the final pick because you're just trying to get back in the game. When he throws the last pick.
Yeah.
But the 2 picks and earlier in the game and the fumble were bad.
Yeah.
I mean, they were bad decisions. Ben Johnson made a terrible decision with the trick play, having Jamison Williams throw the football. And I don't want to be too critical.
But, part of his genius was running those trick plays or running a certain play that didn't belong in a certain situation, and it worked. And it's done that all year. But he runs those trick plays, and they're 3rd and 15 or something, and he's running a trick play.
I agree. He goes off script.
And we're like, what are they doing? And it works.
He goes off script, and he plays against trend, and he plays in the zone of randomness. But he usually does that with an intelligent football player who can make an intelligent decision. A young J-Mo has proven that he does not make good decisions. He doesn't make good decisions off the field. He doesn't make good decisions on the field. He was fined in the game for another irreverent gesture in the end zone after a touchdown.
Yeah.
We are getting to the point with him in particular where I do think we need to start thinking about moving on because he's got a ton of potential. He doesn't fit the system from a discipline standpoint. The Dan Campbell worldview doesn't fit. And I do believe, I'm not trying to be the doom and gloomer for him in his career perspective. I believe right now as he stands, he's got a 10-cent head.
I do too. When I played in the NFL, if you can play, you'll be on the field. The stuff off the field matters.
Antonio Brown.
That's not even the same ball
It's
game.
trending in the same direction.
Kind of, but I don't think he's Antonio Brown.
Wrong
Antonio
stuff
Brown,
in his car, wrong stuff putting in his body.
I agree.
Wrong habits with the gambling, wrong interactions with law enforcement.
It's similar, not the same.
It's trending in the same direction.
I hope not.
If it walks like a duck and it talks like a duck, it often manifests itself as a duck.
Yeah, you say to yourself, maybe he's just young, right? Or maybe he's just misled, or I don't know. Doesn't make sense to me. If I was making that kind of money, game-changing money, going to change my life and my family's life, do you think I'd stop doing stupid shit? That would be enough for me. But maybe it's not enough for him. I don't know.
In this game, it finally translated to something dumb on the scoreboard.
Well,
with the pick.
Let's stop kidding ourselves. All we care about is if they won or lost.
I don't want to win with the 86 Mets, right? I don't want the history of the team to be that it was a cocaine-infused, debaucherous, 5 girlfriends got beat on the way to a World Series championship. I don't want to win that way. Some people, like you just said, some people don't care. It's win at all costs.
Yeah.
I don't want to win that way.
I agree.
I don't want to have SMU's Pony Express that gives my program the death penalty.
Yeah, I think this is a little different. Doing things after a touchdown or after. They all do that. Every player does that now. I wish they would just go back to the huddle. Once in a while, just go back to the huddle. You don't need that shit. I mean, every play. I mean, the best players in the league, that's what they all do.
It is. It's so pathetic. And the referees are so arbitrary in their enforcement of it. It makes us all crazy. Now I'm going to flip over to the other game. Philadelphia playing Washington, because we've talked about the Lions versus Washington. That same Washington team goes into Philadelphia and shits all over themselves.
They were in the game.
Yeah, I mean, the special team stuff, though, and the drop and kickoff. I mean, why couldn't that happen in Detroit?
Yeah.
That's what you're thinking, right?
No, that did happen in Detroit.
It
just
you're
didn't
fumbling
happen
the ball
the
all over
last
the field.
game. You know,
Zach Ertz.
How can nobody cover Zach?
All
Ertz?
of a sudden,
he's almost out of football.
Yeah.
Now nobody can cover him.
Fountain of youth.
What the fuck?
Yeah. What I love about this is that in that football game, you're sitting there and you're watching Lattimore obviously losing his cool, losing some one-on-one battles, getting a little bit embarrassed. But then A.J. Brown takes his helmet off. He pushes Lattimore's helmet off. Illegal hands to the face, takes it, and the penalty is on Lattimore.
Here's the difference. The first one never gets called. The second one does. Hold on. And did you see when Lattimore started really getting into it? He went like this.
Exactly.
That's called smart. You can be stupid, but you have to be smart at the end.
Okay. The smart and the stupid in that one is the referee being stupid.
Correct. They never see the first one, though, Joe. They never see the first one.
He
know that.
But he got his helmet knocked off. They always see the helmet get knocked off.
I would agree. When a guy loses his helmet in general, you're getting a penalty. I would agree.
Given what had led up to it, several terrible calls against the Washington Commanders. Given what had just led up to it, I thought, well, there's no way that they're going to call this one on them again.
Just watching the Kansas City game and the Eagles game, you start to think this shit is fixed. We talk about it all the time. Like, there's no way that can happen. They would never allow that to happen in the NFL. But the calls go to the favored team. They just do. Have they always? Are we naive to think that they haven't always gone to the? Maybe we're naive. I don't fucking know.
Well, what we do know,
it just seems in today's day and age with replay and little half inches for fourth down, maybe it's just you get to see it more. Again, maybe we didn't get to see it 20 years ago.
And again, in the Chief-Bills game, and this to me is always the clean line of delineation. When the network hired official comes on the air, right? Where the broadcasts now have
Gene Selleck. He's on there with them. Yeah.
When they come on and say, yeah, looked definitive to me at that overhead angle that Josh Allen got the first down, which I think everybody with two eyes and a head, the one sideline angle and the overhead angle clearly looked like the nose of the football touched the white line, which is all that needs to happen. People screw this up all the time. They think, oh, well, the ball had to get over the line. No, the front edge of the nose of the football needs to touch the front edge of the white line.
Sure.
The ball was clearly on the white line, if not over the front edge.
Yeah.
And Josh Allen and the Buffalo Bills drive is stalled. Chiefs get the ball back. They kick a field goal. They win the game, which is how the Chiefs win a lot of these games. I do not think that most of these games are fixed. But to your point, I do think that there is inherent bias that referees carry with them. Nobody wants the Washington Commanders in a Super Bowl. It's a middle market small team. They just had a name change. The fan base is in a little disarray over the whole Daniel Snyder scandal. None of these power players want Washington for television ratings. They want a bigger market like Philadelphia. Right? That's been there before, that has some history with it, with one. And now again, it's the Kelce brothers. Jason Kelce, the former Eagle, it's another rehash of the Super Bowl from 2 years ago.
Well, look at their Arizona State game and that targeting. Right? What was that, a month ago already?
Yeah, you can't have Texas lose that game.
No.
Texas can't lose that game for the money, for the college football playoff scenario.
And that was blatant targeting. Yeah. It was simple. If you don't call that, you can't call anything.
And the ratings hit. You can't discount this. The ratings hit that the Super Bowl would have taken with little market Buffalo against little market Washington versus Taylor Swift and the Kelce brothers being reunited in another Philadelphia, Kansas. The ratings hit that Super Bowl would have taken if either one of those two teams would have lost. This is where I was getting at with the FBI DOJ guy who showed up on talk shows 40 years ago talking about the Joe Namath and the Baltimore Colts being a fix.
He said it was 100% fixed.
There's a lot to be said about the inner workings behind the scene as it relates to following the money.
That's scary. But it is what it is. Money makes the world go round. It just does.
You brought up Texas, so let's get into the college football playoff here. Let's transition. But for those of you who are living under a rock, we will have a repeat of the Super Bowl of 2 years ago. The Philadelphia Eagles, your NFC representatives, will be facing off in a three-peat opportunity. The Kansas City Chiefs will face them and Patrick Mahomes in New Orleans on February 9th. Moving over to what transpired between the Notre Dame Fighting Irish and the Ohio State Buckeyes. Ohio State lost to Michigan. Ohio State lost the Big Ten title to the Oregon Ducks earlier in the year. Mm-hmm. But in a 12-team playoff, they were able to put it together at the right time, and Ryan Day not only saves his job, probably gets an extension and more money and moves on down the line. Deep breath. Did that game provide you anything that you didn't expect?
No. I was just going to say that game was about exactly what I expected. I saw how Ohio State played before the game in the previous two games, and I said, if they play anywhere near that, no one's going to beat them. It was about what I expected. I thought that Notre Dame had some holes, and they took advantage of that, and they're just a better team.
Just
too many athletes. And that's kind of the same thing we were just talking before we came in. When I think about Philadelphia, they don't have a whole lot of holes. Now, as a team, do I think that they're just way better than Kansas City? No, because their defense is not. I think their defense should be much better than they are with the talent that they have. But they don't seem to play together all the time.
Fangio has been a huge. You got the two best defense coordinators in football, and again, when the glory days of football come into focus, defense wins championships. You can put up all those cliches, but that is what you have. You have the AFC's best defensive coordinator in Steve Spagnuolo and the best defense from a points per game standpoint, and you've got the best defensive coordinator, at least if you take out that, I think that first 5 games of the season when Philadelphia was trying to get into the Fangio defense. Yeah. From that point on, Philadelphia has had a dominant defense.
I don't know if you can say that anymore, Joe. Defense wins championships.
Two best defenses. are playing in the Super Bowl.
Okay. I mean, both of them get gutted on the run. I don't know. It just seems like we used to have much more dominant defenses 15 years ago.
Absolutely.
That would shut so
But
there's no shutting people down anymore.
the right point, in my opinion, is offensive firepower, game planning, and the rules on PI have changed so dramatically over our lifetimes in football that you are not going to stop everybody. You got to kind of almost just change the whole framework of what you expect out of a dominant defense, because a dominant defense might just hold you to 24 points.
Yeah.
They're not holding you to 6 points anymore.
Yeah, exactly. Or they force field goals, right? And that's what both teams did. Both winning teams yesterday forced field goals for a little while anyway.
But you're going to pop a big play. Spagnola's genius in this game was bringing the corner blitz when they least expected it.
Yeah.
I mean, Josh Allen getting chased out of the pocket, having to throw balls away throughout the game in key situations. I will say, Kincaid's got to make that catch. I mean, it hits him in the hands.
I will say this, kind of stepping back and looking at it from afar, it's more entertaining now. Yeah. Every game is a nail biter. I mean, look what they say. The
every
Chiefs
game the Chiefs are ever going to play in its nail, but the Chiefs are not good enough to blow anybody out.
Yeah, 11 games this year. Was it a last? They had to score a touchdown at the end, or I can't remember what it was. Just touchdown to the end, or it was under 7 that they won. 11 games.
Good enough to beat everybody they play. Not good enough to blow any of them out.
No, Lions too this year. I mean, we're 15-2.
Well, at the end, when the injuries came in,
then
they couldn't blow people out.
And they blew a couple people out. But even in some of the early games that we lost and won, they were 1-touchdown games.
I mentioned Kincaid dropping the ball, but what we skated right over was my Super Bowl pick, the Baltimore Ravens, with Mark Andrews dropping 2 balls.
Yeah, he doesn't drop.
Drop balls
ever. Yeah,
I mean, if you didn't know how intensely competitive Mark Andrews is, you'd have thought that was a fix.
Yeah,
Mark Andrews drops 2 key balls.
Yeah,
you'd have thought he was taking money.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, but Mark Andrews is a psychopath to win. Yeah. So that's a very far-fetched scenario. But Mark Andrews, Kincaid, I mean, these guys have great hands.
I use the golf analogy sometimes, right? There's a lot of good golfers. Put money on it. Let's see how good they are. There's a lot of great golfers that strike the ball. They make all these kind of putts. Put $50 on a 5-foot putt and see how many people make it.
Clutchness.
Right.
That kind of guides me back to Ohio State, Notre Dame. Do you think that the game was too big for Freeman at this young juncture in bringing Notre Dame back? It looked to me like when the fireworks started to go off, they got a little wide-eyed and got a little bit back on their heels, whereas they were playing super aggressive early in the playoff. And maybe that's just Ohio State's talent makes you back up a step.
I think so. And plus, when you've got a quarterback, too, that's more of a running quarterback that can't make those elite throws, those really good throws. I mean, he played pretty well.
They had moments. Notre Dame had moments where they were getting back in the game.
Yeah. Yeah.
But as soon as it was kind of like, you remember Yvonne Lendl back in the tennis days?
Sure.
Right?
Sure.
The machine.
Yeah.
You make a great play for a winner. And then he just does 3 real steady things that, we're right back where we started.
Yeah.
Ohio State just kept putting Notre Dame right back where they started.
They're deep. That's the thing, too, not to jump all over. But Lions, when we lost Amik Robinson, our backup is at best a backup. I mean, he doesn't even have moments where he could be a starter. I mean, he shouldn't be. I mean, he's playing in the NFL, so he's a good football player.
Yeah, this isn't a backup that's rising into the starting lineup.
No. It's not like we had a rookie or we had somebody else. We had no one else.
No.
We were out. We had nobody. We had no other, no Rick Straw or somebody that's a first-round pick or, we had to play what we had to play.
Coming in,
if he would have went down, I would have liked to see who do we have left?
It was going to be a return man turned into a DB.
Yeah. We had no one left.
Raymond was going to be
probably
switching.
Probably put a linebacker out there. Who knows?
So college football and the resulting national championship, in many people's eyes, this was the first phase of the elimination of amateurism. 20 million plus roster for Ohio State, wins the national championship. Obviously wasn't the best team during the regular season, but figured out the mechanics for the playoff and got on a run at the right time.
But best players all year.
Best
by
talent
far.
level.
But yeah, best talent level all year, no question.
Best talent level. So now you look forward, and you've got House versus the NCAA and the settlement from that antitrust lawsuit. So I'm not perfectly versed in this, but this is the culmination of several cases coming together nationally. Some cases against the inability to earn wages in the past, right? The pre-NIL era. Some scenarios about profit sharing, about all the TV money that comes into the NCAA and how that's not getting shared as part of the name, image, and likeness. But this is the culmination of, I think, at least 3 cases. People think House. Oh, is this the House of Representatives? Is this a House? No, this is a person.
Yeah.
This is Grant House, a swimmer from Arizona State. Just happens to be the lead plaintiff in a case. And that's how these tort cases work, right? You've got a lead plaintiff. That's the name on the case, and that's how the case gets named. And Brown versus the Board of Education, right? You got a person. So Grant House, who receives death threats and all kinds of craziness because of what most people think the backlash of this suit is going to be. So let's start with what this suit will manifest in dollars. The NCAA will have to share the revenue from these TV deals. The power conferences and their schools will get to pay players directly as a result of this settlement for their.
So the money doesn't come from the donors; it comes from the NCAA.
It can still come from donors too. Okay, so that part of the Wild West of NIL is not going to be eliminated.
No,
we'll see.
It'll change.
There's still going to be rules. But it doesn't. Now the money, because the schools are also tax deductible organizations, right? So I can get the same tax deduction by giving it to the school that I can this nonprofit collective.
Okay.
Right? So why let it pass through the hands of somebody who's going to take middleman bureaucracy money out of the equation? Let's just give it right to the school. School gives it right to the kid. Right? Okay. That's the simplification of this system. Now. This Dwayne Carter, who I mentioned on a previous show, former buddy of mine who played at Orchard Lake St. Mary's, played at Ohio State with Eddie George and Joey Galloway. His son, who's a Buffalo Bill, just got beat by the Chiefs, defensive lineman. He is on the named plaintiff of one of the other lawsuits that came together in this for the old money. So there's going to be billions of dollars set aside in this settlement.
That are going to go to X players?
But from only 2016 to 2021.
Shit.
Okay. So
thought maybe I'd get a couple grand somewhere.
So Dwayne Carter from Duke, who was joined by, I think, a Stanford player in this lawsuit as the named plaintiffs, they are the leads in getting the 2016 to 2021 players repaid for what they should have been entitled to when NIL got blocked or whatever, whenever that lawsuit started. Okay, so you're going to have some people getting back pay, and then you're going to have profit sharing going forward in this new model, however that resolves itself. But this new model is going to deprive, and here's where the death threats come in, a lot of the other non-revenue sports at most of these schools. In some cases, many people believe...
I thought you said House was a swimmer.
Exactly. Even House himself doesn't really...
Is he giving himself death threats?
No. So think, really, it's sports like this. It's sports that cost a lot of money and don't make any money.
Okay.
I don't think swimming falls into that. I don't think that's a huge cost center.
Hockey. Well, but hockey probably makes money.
And as a matter of fact, the carve-out on that back pay situation is only football and basketball. Only the revenue-generating sports. Right now, this settlement is not complete.
Okay.
Right now, what we're hearing is that football and basketball, the revenue-generating sports, really for television dollars, right, are the two sports where that profit sharing is going to take place. But yes, the backlash is that the non-revenue sports at some of these schools might be completely eliminated. Some schools might just say, it's just not worth having these other sports when all of our money and focus and television and revenue is generated. We'll almost just turn these into club sports where we're not going to fly them all over the place. It's also supposedly going to be devastating to Olympic sports because
Sure.
of this same effect.
Yeah.
That the non-revenue generating sports are going to get no attention, whereas football and basketball are going to get all the attention.
Is there a revenue generating sport in the Olympics? Yes, basketball. I mean, there's a few, but most are not.
Yeah, most are not.
Yeah.
At the collegiate level, most of these Olympic
Yeah, the
sports are.
decathlon?
Yeah.
No. Sprinting? Maybe.
I can't think of.
But they guys still have basketball. They have volleyball. They have hockey. They have.
I see collegiate wrestling on ESPN.
Yeah, that's not a revenue generating
You know,
sport. Maybe they have 3,000-4,000 people go to a wrestling match. Maybe. Yeah.
For the perverts out there, there's competitive cheerleading, and with Livy Dunn and all these gymnasts now, there's gymnastics on ESPN. But come on, who's watching gymnastics on ESPN? It's either an ex-gymnast or a bunch of pervs. I'm not denying a pervert their right. That there's a lot of pervert things that you could do that are worse than watching women's gymnastics.
This is true. This is true. But I guess it's what you're thinking.
All right, let's crack them. We're halfway through the damn episode, and
Yeah.
you're
yapping.
getting to crack them.
You're yapping. Little soda today. Perfect.
I haven't had a Fresca. Grapefruit and
Forever.
citrus, yeah. Oh, I should have said that was a beer for the people who who can't see the podcast. They think that we're stronger than we are. We're drinking Fresca this early in the morning.
I don't think they think we're stronger than we are.
All right. Nick Saban, what was your take on his take?
He just was. It's just completely unfair. There's teams that have 30, 35, 40 million. It's probably going to go to 100 million. Who knows? Why would you put a limit on it? If you want to win football games and get the big contracts, there is no limit on what you can pay someone.
Not if it's a legacy play for someone.
No. So you've got to put a cap on it. It's probably got to be something. Maybe it's, gosh, then you get into this mess too. Is it maybe a Big Ten thing or a SEC thing or a ACC? Like, does there have to be an average that every player gets, right?
Here's where it's difficult to put a cap on it, especially as it relates to name, image, and likeness. Imagine, if you will, that Taylor Swift was a college basketball player. In addition to being a pop star, imagine she actually played college basketball too. It doesn't lower the value of her name, image, and likeness because she's a basketball. So what I'm saying is you're right. It's the market value of the human being. That's how name, image, and likeness is based.
So we should just let capitalism be capitalism.
At least on the NIL side of it. This revenue share.
It's what I agree with. I mean, the better you play and the more people that want you, the more valuable you are. It's just the way the world, it works.
The number that's being bantied about for limits and caps on what the schools will be able to share is 22%. And I don't know where that number came from.
22% of what?
22% of the revenue that the schools bring in will have to be shared with the players.
Oh, okay.
I don't know where they came up with that.
Yeah, but then that's still not fair because every school brings in different revenue.
Well, you got to bring in more money, build a bigger stadium,
Yeah.
put more people in it,
Yeah.
make your product better so that more TV rights come to your conference.
Yeah.
Right?
Recruit better. Do whatever.
And don't you think that it's kind of the end? We talked about, does the ACC have to find a partner? Does the Big 12 and the ACC have to come together as a super conference? I mean, they're never going to have the money that the Big 10 and the SEC have, right? No. It's just a better product.
It's just a better product. It just is. Yeah, gosh. There's a lot of questions. Yeah, do you do it by conference? Do you do all D1 gets the same amount of money? So if you're, James Madison University, you get the same amount of money as Ohio State?
No. There's no way.
There's no way.
There's no meritocracy in that either.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, you could say, well, we're balancing the playing field. Okay, so you're balancing the playing field by putting a worse product out there for less consumers to consume? Yeah. I don't think so.
A lot of questions.
That doesn't play.
A lot of holes to be poked.
Yes. Flipping back to what happened to our Motor City Kitty Cats, Jaden Daniels is one of the big pieces of what happened to them.
Yeah.
And you didn't expect a rookie quarterback to come in and do what he did.
And they've got a good team, too. They've got good receivers. They've got good offensive linemen. They've got a great running back. They've got a good team also.
Let's put a finer point on Jaden Daniels because this is our big segue into the GOAT debate. Is this the greatest rookie season of all time? Jaden Daniels goes 69%, almost 70% passing efficiency percentage. He throws for over 3,500 yards. Now, granted, it's one more game than other quarterbacks have had in the past. 25 touchdowns, 9 picks. He rushes for 891 yards. Scores 6 touchdowns on the ground in addition to the 25 touchdowns he passed for. And he's over 100 passer rating as a rookie. And if we just want to talk about the beauty of wins and losses, he's a 12-win team versus a 4-win team the year before. Right? So hard to argue when I look through the history of football.
How about Cam Newton?
Cam Newton had an amazing rookie season.
He had a better rookie season than Jalen. He had.
I don't think so.
He had 4,000 yards. He had 21 passing TDs, 14 rushing TDs. I hate to say it, but the numbers are better in less games.
Yeah, Cam Newton is a tough one. 21 touchdown passes, so he didn't throw as many touchdown passes, but he had the 14 rushing TDs, and he did have a ton of yards.
And did you know?
Garbage time yards, though. They weren't.
I would agree.
They weren't in great. I mean, Jaden Daniels takes him one game away from the Super Bowl.
It's a different game now than it was 15 years ago or 10 years ago whenever Cam played. But you know that there's never been a rookie quarterback in the Super Bowl?
No.
Yeah. I didn't know that. I mean, I would have guessed it. I just going through my head, but I didn't know that.
If you rewind to the Mac quarterback who came in to the Pittsburgh Steelers lineup, Ben Roethlisberger.
He's the youngest.
Right. And he went 13-0 in his run to the playoffs.
Yeah.
So pretty amazing rookie run to go 13-0 when you get handed the reins of the team of a storied franchise. But he sputtered out in the playoffs as well and had a rough playoff run after a pretty damn good regular season to guide them there.
Yeah.
Joe Namath had a great rookie season.
Yeah.
And he's one of the epic ones of all time. I think the one that was most visually impressive, and maybe it's because of the controversy around his draft status and whisper campaigns about what his behavior was off the field, was Dan Marino.
Yeah.
When Dan Marino came into the league, people were like, is this guy just going to come right in and take over? Does he really have a cocaine habit, right? There was all kinds of rumors going on behind the scenes. And once he took over, now he only started 9 games. He went for 2,200 yards in 9 games and 20 touchdown passes.
Yeah, he had 20 touchdown passes, and he had a .95 QB rating, which in that time was unheard of because they didn't throw the ball that much. Yeah.
He was slinging.
I told you when we played there. I can't remember. It was I think it was my rookie year. We played in Miami, and it just sounded different. The ball just sounded different. It kind of whizzed coming out of the pocket. It was amazing.
Marino is one of those special players that people talk about on the eye test side more than they talk about the statistics.
Yeah.
If you watched Marino play, if you watched him operate in the pocket, if you saw the effects that he had on the defense and on game planning, it was far more influential than what he gets credit for.
Agreed.
So
Agreed.
Our GOAT list now is the best rookies of all time, the greatest rookies of all time. So it's going to be a lot of the greatest players of all time, but we're going to try to confine this to the 4 major sports: football, basketball, baseball, hockey.
Okay.
Right? The major professional sports. And I'm going to start you off by giving you the Detroit-centric view on this.
Okay.
Just Detroit. And then I'm going to open it up for you to help me work my way up the list. Detroit had Al Kaline in baseball. Al Kaline comes in to Major League Baseball, and he's a bit of an oddball in the discussion of rookies. I love the weird rules. Back in that era, if you got a bonus a signing bonus as a rookie from the draft,
Like $2,000 probably.
$4,000, I think was it
$4,000?
$4,000, which would be a lot of money today.
Yeah.
But if you got $4,000, which he got 15, so he got like a lot more than the minimum. But if you got this minimum level, the big club had to take you, or you forfeited the player's rights. if you stuck him in the minors. So you couldn't stockpile talent. If you signed a guy with a big signing bonus, Major League Baseball had a rule that for 2 years you had to have him on the roster.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
So I love these little quirks of the rule. So they had to bring him up, even though that first year he was a bench player. The second year they had to play, but they were playing him at 18. He had no business being out there, right? I mean, especially an outfielder. When we consider his first full-time season, he goes, and here's the Al Kaline line, as a 20-year-old, okay, which first playing every game. He batted .340. He won the Gold Glove. He was second in the MVP voting. He was the first 20-year-old to win the batting title since Ty Cobb, another Tiger. He was second to Yogi Berra in the MVP battle. His WAR, wins against replacement, which is the big Major League Baseball stat now, was 8.2. That's like MVP caliber WAR rating in baseball. So that, and of course he was Rookie of the Year. He was Mr. Tiger. He stayed with the Tigers for 22 years, became the voice of the Tigers on television afterwards. He won 10 Gold Gloves and went to 18 All-Star games in a 22-year career. Phenomenal number 6, Al Kaline, is your Detroit baseball young star coming right out of the blocks. Dave Bing on the basketball side. Former mayor, CEO of Bing Steel. He was Rookie of the Year in 1967. Another little quirky dynamic. The two best players in basketball in 1967 were Cazzie Russell from Michigan. Of course, everybody wanted the Pistons to draft Cazzie Russell, but the Pistons finished tied for last with the New York Knicks. The second best player in basketball at Syracuse was Dave Bing. So it was a coin toss for Cazzie Russell.
Really?
That's how it was. There's no lottery.
Who took?
They flipped a flipping coin to determine who got the first pick. The Knicks won the coin toss. Cazzie Russell went to the Knicks. The Pistons, drafting second after the coin toss loss, drafted Dave Bing. Dave Bing was 20 points a game as a rookie, 4.5 boards, over 4 assists, playing the point, bringing the ball up the floor, dominant Rookie of the Year. And of course, he went on to help found St. Cecilia with the Pro-Am League. My buddy Sam Washington, who was in here with us, he led the league in scoring 27 points a game his next year as a second-year player.
You know what? Just that takes me back to our original conversation about the fourth down, watching that on film, right? What if you just flipped a coin? Can you imagine? People lose their minds.
Lose their shit. We're going to decide this on a coin toss?
On a coin toss.
But that's what it is.
Yeah.
Right? I mean,
it is. It's really not a whole lot different.
A couple of guys are in a booth
But
somewhere.
we get to talk about it.
Yeah.
Now
guys are in a
everybody
booth.
talks about it. Before, just a coin toss.
A couple of guys are going, is that a definitive enough image to overturn the call? What do you think, Bob?
Look, you know what? Look from the bottom
Jim,
left. Yeah.
Jim, I'm not sure. What is how definitive is I mean, the whole nature of the language as to how they set up these rules is arbitrary and horseshit.
Yeah. Yeah.
So let me continue.
Okay.
Finishing my run of Detroit, the second half, Terry Sawchuk. His son was a football coach, coached at Wayne State.
Yeah.
Sawchuk was the Red Wings goaltender, amongst other teams. It was the best goaltender in the league, the Vezina Trophy winner 4 times. He was the Rookie of the Year in 1951, where he led for 2 years in a row, his first year and his second year, the first 100-point seasons in the history of the NHL. This was the dominant Red Wings of 4 cups from 8 out of 9, finished first in the league at the end of the year, 8 out of 9 seasons in a row through the late 40s, through the 50s. Terry Sawchuk had 447 wins in his career. He had 44 in both his first year and his second year. The Wings finished first. They won the Cup the next season. He had 103 shutouts. He had 11 of those shutouts in his rookie season with the Wings. Terry Sawchuk, craziness, he died after a fight with a teammate. Did you know this story?
No.
He got in a fight with his roommate. He's playing for the Rangers at the end of his career. He's only 40 years old. For hockey players, they play into their early 40s quite a bit. He got into a fight, supposedly it was over expenses or something like that, with Ron Stewart.
So he got in a fight in the locker room.
With a buddy at home. They were living together in Long Island. He gets in a fight at home. Maybe there was drinking involved. Maybe there wasn't. There was certainly alcohol played a role. Gallbladder surgery, liver surgery. He ends up dying of a pulmonary embolism. Terry Sawchuk passed away at 40 years old. Ron Stewart, the player he got in the fight with, was cleared of all charges. Even Sawchuk himself, he was conscious the whole last week in the hospital. He said this was accidental. This was wasn't a violent thing. A lot of people thought he was one of the first CTE. He took all those pucks. Remember, this is before the mask.
Sure.
He had all the scars on his face. He's buried right here in Pontiac, Michigan at Mount Hope Cemetery. Died at 40 years old, one of the greatest goaltenders of all time. That's your hockey rookie for Detroit. And then the Detroit player who was not a rookie with the Lions, I'm going to put him out there as one of the greatest rookies of all time, Dick Night Train Lane. His rookie year was actually with the Rams. He had 14 picks, which is still a record. I mean, when you got a record that's held up since the 1950s, 60s.
14 picks when they didn't even used to throw the ball.
They didn't throw the ball.
Yeah.
14 picks, and he was known as a hitter. And he had 14 picks, most ferocious hitter. He had 7 times he was first team Pro Bowl, 3 times second team, so 10 of his 11 seasons in the NFL. He's an all-pro. 2 times he led the league in interceptions. Then people just stopped throwing at him altogether. Obviously known as one of the greatest hitters. He wins the Rookie of the Year award. He scores 2 touchdowns that season. The Chicago Cardinals, who he played with after that, actually used him both ways here and there. They'd throw to him a little bit too. He ends up scoring 7 touchdowns, 11 fumble recoveries. His 68 picks, remember, some guys are playing longer than this now, is still 4th all time. 68 picks, and Ronnie Lott, Steve Atwater, Ed Reed, all these safeties who we've come to know as great hitters, they all owe it. The changing of the position is born from Dick Night Train Lane. Another guy, strangely, that people thought might have been an early onset of CTE. He ends up in Austin, Texas, worked with the Lions for many years, worked with the Detroit Police Athletic League, lived in Detroit for many years, passed away in Austin, Texas, probably far too young. But there's your 4 Detroit sports rookies that are 4 of the best rookie seasons of all time in sports.
Okay. Mine's a little more overall. At 10, I've got Dan Marino. 1983, we talked about it, the 20 touchdowns, 0.95 passer rating. Back when, quarterbacks, we didn't even have, I'm surprised they even had a rating back then. At number 9, I've got Derrick Rose. Bulls in 2008. Youngest
Memphis?
Youngest MVP in NBA history.
Had a cup of coffee with the Pistons.
Yeah. Yep. Yeah, at the end.
That rookie year, though.
Number 8, and this should probably be top 3, was Jim Brown. He was the only rookie to ever be NFL MVP. Number 7, I've got Cam Newton. I think we talked about him.
Best Heisman Trophy winner of all time. Remember, he was the GOAT Heisman. He followed that up right the next year going into the NFL and having one of the best rookie years.
4,000 passing yards, 21 passing TDs, 14 rushing TDs. Those numbers are better than Jaden Daniels.
Some of those numbers are better.
They are. Number 6, I've got Jaden Daniels. We talked about him, 3,500 passing yards, 25 TDs, 6 rushing TDs, beat the Lions in the playoffs. Oh. I'm still depressed. I was really depressed for a couple days. I mean, I don't know if I get depressed, whatever I get. Down. Melancholy, yeah. Just don't give a shit. I don't want to watch nothing. I don't want to watch NFL games. I don't want to watch nothing.
No. I watched the Philadelphia.
I mean, we watch it, but it's not the same.
I got to tell you, I was listless.
I just got that look I got on my face right now.
I was half reading a book during the game.
Yeah. Okay, somebody scored a touchdown. Good for them.
I look up to see which referee is gonna make love to Patrick Mahomes on the sideline.
Not that any of us would have been happy without the Lions winning the Super Bowl, but losing that first game after we get a bye at home. I don't care who it's against. We're supposed to win that game.
Drink doesn't satiate me. Food doesn't taste as good anymore.
No.
I can't stand it.
No.
We had to win.
We just got to avoid a void.
All right, I'm going to jump in. I want to get in on basketball.
Okay.
I talked in a recent episode about the influential moment for the first time I ever remember my dad ever being concerned with a basketball game when the kid from East Lansing and Magic Johnson was playing in the championship game against Irving. That rookie year for Magic Johnson was also Larry Bird's rookie year. So this one's a tandem. Because Larry Bird actually won Rookie of the Year in the NBA that year. His line was 21 points a game, 10.5 boards, 4.5 assists. Pretty good. Not to mention that the Celtics were 32 wins better with Larry Bird as a rookie than they were the year before. But Magic Johnson one-upped him by taking his team all the way to the championship and beating the 76ers. He was 18.7 a game, 7.5 boards, 7.3 assists, but he's running point, jumping center.
Yeah, is that the game where he had to play center?
He played center. Yeah, I mean, he did it all. So Magic Johnson and Larry Bird, their rookie year, I think that's the 79-80 season. You can't, to have both those guys come into the league at the same time in a rookie year is phenomenal.
And they played in the college championship the year before, right?
Yeah. So, all the drama set up that way.
Yeah.
I think, though, from a guard standpoint, people talk about Michael Jordan's rookie year, which was okay, but there was injuries. And Michael Jordan Michael Jordan kept getting a lot of sand kicked in his face from the Celtics and the Pistons, the bad boys. And I mean, it took him a while to get things going.
So we put a team together, yeah.
The guys who it didn't take long to get together were Oscar Robertson and Kareem Abdul-Jabbar. So if I'm just talking about rookies in basketball, the Big O started out, again, I love it when we go back in time to stuff that doesn't exist anymore.
Yeah.
The Cincinnati Royals were an NBA team in 1960-61 that Oscar Robertson started his career with. He started his career, his rookie season, with basically a triple-double line in his rookie year. He went 30 points a game, 10 rebounds a game, 9.7 assists a game.
Wow.
Basically, he had 26 triple-doubles during his rookie season. 26 triple-doubles. Then he ends up getting partnered at the end of his career with a new rookie, a kid named Lou Alcindor, who later changed his name to Kareem Abdul-Jabbar with the Milwaukee Bucks when they won that championship. And that Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, Lou Alcindor championship, 69-70, Jabbar goes 28.8 points a game, 14.5 boards, and also over 4 assists, which is pretty damn good for a big man.
Yeah.
Not to mention block shots, which they only kept during parts of the career. The part that they kept, I think Kareem Abdul was like 4 or 5 blocks per game. But Jabbar and Oscar Robertson on the same team, and those two guys having 2 of the greatest rookie seasons of all time, I think those two.
Did they win the championship that year?
The Bucks did.
They did.
The Milwaukee, and back when it was tough to get a championship they were all being won by LA and Boston.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So to sneak a championship out of that NBA was another amazing achievement.
Back to my list, I got Marshawn Lynch, 2007. He only played in 13 games, but he rushed for over 7 touchdowns. He had over 1,000 yards.
That was with the Bills.
Yeah.
That was before Seattle.
It was with the Bills, yes. Number 2, I got Jackie Robinson, 1947. Led the league in steals.
Jackie Robinson.
Yeah, and had a 300 batting average in his rookie year.
That's a great pull.
Can you imagine? He's the only white. He's the only black guy.
Oh my God.
That's it.
It was we talked about it. That uncomfortable feeling when you walk in the room wearing the wrong thing. Imagine Jackie Robinson walking into every room.
Yeah, and
everybody
hates you. Everybody's
the
talking
wrong
about
color.
you. Yeah.
Right, for these ignorant people.
Yeah. And my number 1 is Wilt Chamberlain, 1959. The Philadelphia Warriors. Did you know that?
Forgot that they were the Warriors.
You did?
I would have said 76ers.
But led the league in scoring, and he was MVP of the league as a rookie.
I'm going to spend some time on Wilt the Stilt.
Okay.
I'm going to give you more. We gave you Al Kaline for the Tigers. I'm going to give you some more baseball. I'm going to give you some baseball, and then we're going to talk a little bit of hockey too. On the baseball side, there's a guy going into the Hall of Fame here this summer, and they think it could be the largest attendance in the history of Cooperstown for a Hall of Famer. Any clue?
No. That's not helping
Ichiro Suzuki
Ah.
is going into the Hall of Fame.
Okay.
The first Japanese player ever. So they think that there is going to be a massive descendance of fans on Cooperstown for the first Japanese player ever going in. He played 9 seasons of Japanese professional baseball, where he was the best player by far ever from a batting standpoint. Not power hitting, because remember they had Sadaharu Oh, who was the home run hitter who broke Babe Ruth, broke the single season records in the Japanese league. But Suzuki, from just a hitting standpoint.
I knew you'd know that.
Of course I did. 350. He came into Major League Baseball from Japan and hit 350. Now, the power numbers are, relatively insignificant, but what isn't insignificant is on base and scoring runs, right? Scoring runs is how you win baseball games. This is the whole Billy Bean, Moneyball, sabermetrics. You score frickin' runs. He scored 127 of them in his first season. He had 242 hits. I think that's the unbreakable record for a rookie. I don't think any rookie will come into Major League Baseball in our lifetime and have 242 hits. That's the unbreakable record, in my opinion. He had 56 steals. He led the major leagues in stolen bases. Rookie of the Year and MVP.
Wow.
As a rookie. Now, that happens very rarely. You mentioned the other one. Wilt Chamberlain,
sure,
Rookie of the Year and MVP.
Yep.
There's another one from Detroit. Now it's a different league. Spencer Haywood, if you remember, from the University of Detroit, who petitioned and went to the Supreme Court with his lawsuit that he wanted to play in the NBA, got to go to the ABA, even though he had only played 1 year of college basketball. He went to the Olympics and won the gold medal. He went into the ABA and was Rookie of the Year MVP in the ABA, and then they finally let him play in the NBA when he came over.
Okay.
And was, again, team MVP in Seattle. So Spencer Haywood gets added to that list, too, with Wilt Chamberlain. But when you run down the rest of these guys after Suzuki, you really look at some numbers for rookies that are eye-popping in the power numbers, too. Albert Pujols went 37 homers, 130 RBIs in his rookie season. Also a 329 batting average. Ted Williams, the splendid splinter, 31 homers, 145 RBIs, 131 runs, 11 triples. Oh, and by the way, a couple years later, he was a World War II pilot killing Germans in, in war zones in Europe. Joe DiMaggio goes 29 homers, 125 RBIs. What I love about baseball is the statistics stay the same. The games barely changed, right? I think way back in the day, they played 156 games. Now they play 100, maybe it went to 158. Now they play 162.
I would think that nowadays the batting average isn't lower than it used to be.
Oh, it is lower.
Yeah.
It's lower.
I thought so.
Because of specialty pitching.
And plus, pitching's much better.
Well, it's specialty pitching.
I mean, you see these guys throwing 106 miles an hour. I mean, it's...
Here's where pitching gets better, my opinion. I know there'll be great debates with baseball fanatics on this. Because of specialty pitching with pitch counts, you're always getting a fresh arm against you who's coming into the game. Back in the day, it used to be like a badge of honor, right? Like Cy Young was pitching the whole game. You're not taking the ball. You're not going to the mound and taking the ball away.
Well,
from
you saw the Goose Gossage thing with
yeah. Now we got.
I'm not coming out. I've struck out this guy, Kirk Gibson, 13 times in a row. I'm not coming out.
Exactly.
Pew, home run.
Walter Big Train Johnson had something like 38 complete games in a season.
Yeah.
He's not coming off the mound, right? So that's what's changed. You got middle relievers, you got closers, you got guys who only pitch to left-handers, guys who only pitch to right-handers, right? You got all this situational baseball right now to try to defeat the numbers. So that's why the batting averages, in my opinion, have gone down. But Mike Trout, much more recent player. Mike Trout came into the league recently, 326, 30 homers. He only had 83 RBIs, but he had 182 hits. He had 49 steals. I mean, huge rookie season.
$250 million or
huge
whatever he's making.
Season.
Yeah.
Another guy who played for the Tigers, Fred Lynn. Now, he's a rookie with the Boston Red Sox. And Fred Lynn played for a lot of teams. His career probably wasn't what, but this guy was a 2-time MVP. People like gloss over Fred Lynn in the record books. His rookie year, he batted .331, had over 100 RBIs, over 20 homers, over 100 runs. He won the Gold Glove. He was Rookie of the Year, and he was MVP as a rookie for the Boston Red Sox.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, I mean, when you start talking about some of these numbers on the baseball side, where the statistics are really what rules the day because of the back of the baseball card, it's pretty freaking impressive. So now let's get into Wilt Chamberlain. Great debates about who the greatest basketball player of all time was. And Sam Washington shared with me a video this morning. He sent it over to me. Another video where Wilt Chamberlain was discussing Michael Jordan and the differences between them in their debates. Where do you fall out on the greatest basketball player of all time debate as we look at Wilt Chamberlain, who 100%, in my opinion, had the greatest rookie season of all time?
It's hard when you grow up watching Michael Jordan, not just to say Michael Jordan, period. Kobe was great. LeBron's a great player. And I wouldn't have liked playing with him just because the way he played, not played the game, the way he treated people on his team. I don't think I would have liked to be around that, but it is what it is.
And that's one of the knocks on Chamberlain, that he was too nice of a guy. So Chamberlain gets a lot of negative publicity. I think you were with me when I talked about him earlier on an episode.
Yeah.
He was a Republican, which was very odd for an African American at that time. He supported Nixon. So he got called an Uncle Tom by a lot of his peers. Bill Russell got all the accolades of being the activist player. Not to mention Bill Russell won 11 championships. Don't gloss over that.
Yeah.
But Bill Russell becomes a key ingredient in this debate because Bill Russell won those 11 championships. So don't tell me that it's all about championships being the precursor and the determining factor for who the greatest of all time is, because he won many, many more than Michael Jordan.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And was dominant for much longer than Michael Jordan was during that run of championships. But Bill Russell never gets mentioned. Why doesn't Bill Russell get mentioned as the greatest of all time? Because he went head-to-head with Wilt Chamberlain and got dominated by Wilt Chamberlain. Head-to-head competition. I mean, Wilt Chamberlain went in his rookie season against Russell, who had already been in the league and had been the number one center for 3, 4, 5 years. 39 points a game against Russell, 29.5 rebounds.
Wow.
Against the best defender that the NBA had to offer in his rookie season. When Wilt Chamberlain's coach came to him and said, you can't score 100 points a game, you can't score 50 points a game through a whole season if we want to win games, he led his team in assists.
Wow.
The guy could do. He was a track athlete. Did you know he had a better vertical leap than Michael Jordan?
Really?
Wilt Chamberlain at 7'1" had a better vertical leap and a better high jump than Michael Jordan did. Did you know that he ran a 10.2 100-meter?
Who was timing?
10.2.
Who was
track.
timing?
He ran track at Kansas. He ran track.
I can't imagine a guy being 7 foot tall running a 10.2.
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
He was the ultimate freak of freaks. When people tell him, oh, well, if you ever had to play one-on-one with Michael Jordan, he'd just take you outside and then run you to the hoop. And he'd look at him and go, I ran a 10 flat 100. Michael Jordan's going to beat me to the hoop at 7'1". All I got to do is lean out. He can beat me by 2 steps and I'm still going to block his shot.
He's just the best basketball player I've ever seen, was Michael Jordan.
That you've seen.
That I've seen.
Yeah.
I know. I've seen some film on Wilt Chamberlain, but just the way that he played the game, knowing in crunch time and the shots that he made and the defense that he played and the way he inspired the other people on his team, I thought that was a little rough.
Michael Jordan's a great player. He is the greatest guard of all time, in my opinion.
Me too.
But I don't think he's the greatest player because I think that Wilt Chamberlain was the most impact player. And if I had to build a team, I'm starting with the guy who you can't go in the paint because he's going to block 10 shots a game.
Yeah.
That's for me. We get back to football, where we started. The greatest rookie season that I've ever seen was Lawrence Taylor for the New York Giants. He came into the league. I think he had 10 sacks. Changed the game almost automatically with the ferocity of his ability to get to the quarterback and his blitzing at the linebacker position. I think the Giants were 5 or 6 games better immediately with Lawrence Taylor. Who else is on your list from a football perspective?
Well, I talked about him earlier. Jim Brown. to be, the only rookie to be the NFL MVP. And the guys, I saw a special on him, and the guys that play with him said he was the best thing that they've ever seen. The biggest, the fastest, the strongest, everything.
Barry Sanders had a phenomenal rookie season.
Yeah.
Earl Campbell had a 1,500-yard rookie season. Jamal Lewis won the Super Bowl, rushed for over 1,300 yards, had a bunch of touchdowns. Remember Jamal Lewis with the Baltimore Ravens?
That was his rookie year?
That was his rookie year.
Wow.
Well, won the Super Bowl, had 100 yards in the Super Bowl.
Wow.
And averaged over 100 yards a game in his rookie season. So I think that there's some of these guys who we forget about because they might not have had as long a career. I mean, football running backs rarely have long careers.
Yeah.
Football players rarely have as long a careers as some of these guys. But we're going to have an episode coming up where we do a little memorial episode to Dwight Foster. Dwight Foster sadly passed away, great Red Wing and Boston Bruin. What Dwight told me, there's a couple rookies that get mentioned in this section. When he was coming out, Jimmy Devellano from the Red Wings was coaching in New York. And they were deciding whether they're going to draft Dwight Foster, right, from the Kitchener Rangers. They're going to draft this kid from Montreal named Mike Bossy. They decided to draft Bossy. Good decision. Dwight laughed, of course, when he mentioned this. Yeah, it was a good decision. He won 4 cups with the Islanders. He immediately turned that program around. Mike Bossy has also since passed. May he rest in peace. His 78 rookie season, he went for 53 goals, 91 points. He was plus 31.
Wow.
As a rookie.
Wow.
He was plus 31. The team completely turned around. They won 4 cups beginning in 82. Bossy was drafted in that number 1 spot, turned the team around, and that matters, right? It's kind of like what we were saying just now with Jamal Lewis, winning a championship. When a rookie takes you to the title, turns the whole program around,
Yeah.
and takes you all the way to the promised land, that's where these guys separate themselves. In my opinion.
Well, it's like Michael Jordan. When he was a rookie, they weren't good. Then they slowly started adding pieces to the puzzle, right? They get Rodman, they got, Pippen, they got Luke Longley, they got, God, you can name a bunch of guys that were really role players that played well when they played with Chicago because Michael Jordan was so good.
What makes it harder to do, a lot of times, rookies are on the worst team.
Yeah.
Right, they get
by design,
right?
By design,
The best rookie ends up on the worst team. Now the lottery has twisted that a little bit. But Teemu Selanne, right, the Finnish Flash, comes into the NHL with 132 points as a rookie. He scored 76 goals his rookie season with the Winnipeg Jets. But he's playing in Winnipeg.
Yeah.
Nobody knew Teemu Selanne was. I mean, obviously the statistics bore out.
Yeah.
Until he got to the Anaheim Ducks and won the cup with the Ducks, and it rewrote their record books too. His name didn't get mentioned in the same name as, unless you're in Finland, where they think Wayne Gretzky is Teemu Selanne.
Sure.
Right?
Sure.
Where it's a completely different world. Now, to kind of sum this thing up and look at the final list, there's also groups of rookies that came in with such flash and bombast that you couldn't deny that, and then maybe something happened. Maybe that you mentioned Alden Smith. There's a couple of guys here. Devin Hester didn't turn out, after that rookie season, he didn't have a long career. The one that jumps to mind the most for me, and I already mentioned the 86 Mets, Dwight Gooden.
Yeah.
Dwight Gooden came into the league and you thought, this is the most unstoppable force. Right? Kind of almost like Mark Fidrich with the Tigers in the 70s.
Sure.
This kid is going to be unstoppable for the next 20 years. He was a can't miss and was a great player for a good portion of his career.
But he stopped himself with drugs and women. And
is that going to continue to happen? It didn't derail Lawrence Taylor. Like some guys it derails.
Yeah, but Joe, that's not an age thing. That's a human nature.
Genetics?
Yeah, no, it's human nature. Are you going to have guys that are, like we talked about J-Mo, they get a little lost in the spotlight, right?
Can he be found? Can J-Mo be found?
I think so.
I think the Chiefs are going to have trouble with Philadelphia. We'll
I
talk
think so,
about
too.
that in our Super Bowl preview episode next week, right here on Goat Quest. So this has been, as Johnny, our producer, would attest, a fantastically produced episode, mediocrely researched
By you.
and fundamentally flawed in its presentation. But this is GOAT Quest.
That's why I'm here. That's why I'm here.
This is the
I'm
best
here
we
to
got.
fuck shit up.
This
That's
is
my
the
only
best.
job.
This is the best we can deliver. We're out there on Spotify and YouTube and Apple Podcasts. So look us up, find the social media. We're grinding it out as always. Thank you, and go out there into the world and be the GOAT at whatever it is that you're doing today.
I'm working on it.